Hello, and welcome back to the Detours in Music podcast. My name is Laura Rupel, and today we are bringing you an interview with Owen Lee, Adjunct Associate Professor of Double Bass at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, and Principal Double Bass in the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. I hope you enjoy.
My name is Owen Lee. I've been principal bass of the Cincinnati Symphony since 1996. I also am adjunct associate professor of bass at University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. I also hold a couple of summer positions where I play principal bass at the Chautauqua Symphony, and I also teach at the Chautauqua School of Music in the summers.
Wow. How long have you had the adjunct at CCM?
Let's see. I was there for 2012 to 2014, teaching just the orchestral repertoire class, and then I was brought back in 2016, and to teach applied lessons as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. How did you get your start in music?
Let's see. As far as music, I was kind of forced to play piano by my parents at age 5 or 6. Me and my two younger brothers, we were all, just required. It was just something we were required to do, and I didn't enjoy it at the time. But ending up as a professional musician, I was sure glad I had it.
Yeah.
But the first instrument that I chose for myself that I wanted to play was bass guitar. I was 12 at the time. And then as far as like classical bass, that was another thing I chose for myself. That was when I was 15.
Was that kind of to transition the bass guitar element into an orchestral setting?
It was all pretty accidental. Well, I suppose bass guitar maybe not so much accidental because I loved rock music. That's why I wanted to play bass guitar. But I guess the catalyst for it was I had two friends who wanted to start a band when we were in junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
So otherwise I would have just listened to rock music but never gotten involved with it. So I guess that part of it was kind of accidental. And then playing classical bass was also accidental because I had I had a lot of friends who played in the high school orchestra, but I myself was not. I didn't play any orchestral instruments, but a lot of my friends did. So I hung out with them at lunch, in the music room at school, and one day the orchestra director she asked me my name because I was not a familiar face, and she asked me what brought me to the music room, and I said, oh, I'm just having lunch with my friends. And she said, oh, well, do you play any instruments? And I said, well, yeah, I play piano and I play electric bass. And she goes, well, we always need string bass players, double bass players. Are you interested? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So a few weeks later I started.
Yeah, sometimes those small conversations really do change everything.
Yeah, that teacher, her name was Mrs. Beasley. She changed my life, literally changed my life.
Yeah, I'm
She
glad.
gave me she gave me my life's calling. I hadn't really envisioned music for myself.
When was it that you realized that classical bass or music in general was what actually was your life's calling, like you said?
I think I had been playing classical bass for maybe like 2 or 3 months. It was my first orchestra concert at my high school that I was a part of. Yeah, so it's just basically my first symphony orchestra concert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you
we
said
played
this is the thing.
Oh yeah, this was absolutely the thing. I mean, we played some heavy duty music. We played music from Barber's ballet Medea.
Mm.
So I mean, so you can see how ambitious my high school orchestra director was. That's a difficult piece even for a professional orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really powerful music. So it just totally grabbed me by the lapels and wouldn't let go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And where was it that you attended school and why?
I attended USC. I had been offered full scholarships to go to USC, to go to the University of Michigan, and to go to Juilliard. I was also admitted to Eastman, but they were not offering me a full scholarship. At the age of 17, I grew up in Los Angeles. I really didn't want to, at the age of 17, kind of like move to New York and, it's such a pain in the neck
Yes.
with a bass.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the neck without a bass, but with a bass, I just couldn't imagine myself like schlepping a bass around New York City at the
Hmm.
age of 17.
Yeah.
So USC was easy because I grew up in Los Angeles. Or I know LA, and I
Hmm.
and I loved, I knew the teacher was somebody that, was a good fit for me. I studied with, the principal bass of Los Angeles Philharmonic, James Tremblay, and I also studied with Paul Ellison, and I knew they were going to be a great fit for me. So, I already knew Los Angeles well. They're going to be a full scholarship,
Hmm.
so I just kind of, yeah, it just seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah. This makes a lot of sense to musicians, but for any non-musicians listening, that teacher-student relationship, do you think that's of the highest priority?
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, because I certainly made my own decision based on which teacher I thought was going to be, which teacher and situation was going to be best for me. I
Hmm.
mean, I really liked a teacher at Eastman. I thought Professor James Vandermark was going to be a great fit for me. But they were not offering me a full scholarship. Being in Los Angeles, that was sort of like, home court advantage. I know
Yeah.
Los Angeles. I didn't know Rochester.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
yeah.
Did you go to any schooling after your undergraduate?
No, no.
Okay.
But I had a long undergrad though. I mean, I stayed on an extra year to do my undergrad
Yeah.
because I was also minoring in Russian literature.
During your undergraduate, was there something that you struggled with that you maybe see your students struggling with today?
Let me see. I mean, yeah, I saw that question from you earlier, and my answer is yeah, I struggled with everything.
Hmm.
um, and yes, the same things my students struggle with. It's just the same thing. I'm sure all musicians who are kind of transitioning from that student level,
Mm.
trying to transition to that professional level, are going to struggle with. It's like, well, how do you play in tune? How do you play in rhythm? How do you get a fantastic sound? How do you be musical? All these things, and do it all so that it's really apparent to the listener and is consistent. These are things you know that I never stopped struggling with.
Yeah. Yes.
And maybe struggle is not the right word, but it's just say you do a high level sport. I mean, you're gonna there's constant conditioning required, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there's cardio conditioning, there's strength conditioning, all these things, that athletes know well,
Mhm.
and as instrumentalists, we're athletes of the small muscles.
Yes. What was your career focus at that time? Was it just always playing an orchestra?
Yeah, well, I mean, from that concert I told you about when I was 15, my first high school orchestra concert, I wanted to spend my life playing in an orchestra,
Hmm.
in a symphony orchestra. I mean, and yeah, so from the age of 15 until I got my first orchestra job, which was at the age of 23 with the Houston Symphony. I mean, you know, that was my focus. I was all in for that life.
Kind of a question that makes me think of, do you think that you might have had more success at a young age with auditioning for orchestras because that was your focus, like your sole focus?
Everybody's different. You
Hmm.
know, uh, uh, that seemed to work for me. But I know a guy, Ali Yasanfar, who's one of the really respected basses in the field. He's principal bass of Montreal.
Okay.
Um, he when I left the Houston Symphony to come to Cincinnati, he they had two openings, and so he won. He got one of the openings. He had graduated with like some sort of heavy science degree from Johns Hopkins. I think it was like it was like chemistry or physics or something really heavy duty like that.
Okay.
And I think he was like double majoring or minoring in double bass at Peabody.
Hmm.
He was not a full time music major when he got into the Houston Symphony.
Yeah. It was kind of whichever one works out, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So here's an example of somebody who might not have been like, like for me, like I was just saying, I was all in.
Mm-hmm.
My guess with Ali, he was, I mean, he had other interests besides music. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it's from the best of my recollection, music was not his primary interest.
Mm-hmm.
But then it became his primary interest because he got this great job.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
then went on to play in the National Symphony in Washington D.C. and then he got principal bass in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
So people are different. I don't. Working with my students, it's like I don't. I try not to. I try not to have a cookie cutter approach.
Mm-hmm.
I, now that I have the responsibility of guiding students, it's like
Yes.
I don't like trying to the proverbial pound a square peg in a round hole kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. Yeah.
Have you ever considered what you'd do if you weren't a musician?
I mean, at different stages of my life, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like for instance, when I was applying for college, mostly I was applying to music schools. I had two sort of fallback plans. One panned out, one didn't. I applied to UC Berkeley School of Architecture, which is where my dad had graduated. He was an architect, and uh, but I didn't get in there. But I did get into UCLA for political science.
Mm.
So I suppose if I had not gotten into any decent music school,
Yeah.
I would have ended up at UCLA as a political science major, and
Yeah.
I don't know, probably ended up a lawyer or something. I don't.
Yeah.
I play keyboards in a heavy metal band here in Cincinnati that is very serious. I mean, they
I've
tour and
heard about
record.
this.
Yeah, yeah, they're called Electric Citizen, and so yeah. I mean, if that was like if that became some sort of full time job, like compensated me as nicely as the Cincinnati Symphony and
Mm-hmm.
and CCM, who knows? I mean, that could be attractive too, but that's something that just came up in recent years. I might be interested in being like a music journalist, like particularly for rock music or something. I think I would love doing that.
Mm-hmm. Looking at your career, are there moments that you would define as detour moments?
A detour is like a road that you didn't expect to be traveling on. Like playing keyboards with Electric Citizen. I mean, I really had no expectation I would ever be playing with a professional, somewhat successful heavy metal band.
Mm-hmm.
That toured and recorded and sold T-shirts and was like a real band. I never envisioned that.
Yeah,
And get invited to play at kind of big name heavy metal festivals. I never envisioned that.
that's so
So
cool.
yeah, that's a complete detour. I was completely blindsided by that.
Thankful for those piano lessons.
Exactly. Yeah.
What brought you into the job you're in today?
Well, like I said, my first professional orchestra job was with the Houston Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
So I played there for 3 years. I was, I was a section bassist there, and I loved it. I got there when I was 23, and at that age, I said, okay, well, this is awesome. I could easily envision myself doing this for the rest of my life. But I was like, well, but what else is out there? It's like, okay, so all right, like a principal job somewhere, seem kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly, be better than playing in section bass in Houston? Well, maybe playing principal bass somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe playing section bass in a more famous orchestra or whatever. So I auditioned. I auditioned for the section bass in the Chicago Symphony. I didn't get that. I auditioned for principal bass of Cleveland and Philadelphia back in like 94, 95. I didn't get those.
Mm-hmm.
But and Cincinnati, seemed like a incredible opportunity, and but I had just lost. I had gotten to Houston Symphony, thinking I was oh yeah, I'm a really hot player, man.
Mm-hmm.
I can go destroy the world, But then, after I got there, and then had a string of auditions where I didn't get out of the first round,
Mm. It only takes
And,
one
yeah, exactly. So I fully expected Cincinnati to be another one where I didn't get out of the first round,
though. Mm-hmm.
Um, but they liked me, and I just uh, yeah, I think it was good to just not have to. I mean, I guess some of the other auditions, I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. I got into Houston Symphony when I was
Yeah.
23. Blah blah blah. It's like so it was kind of good to kind of just sort of like you know uh, have that kind of what do you call it, like
Reality check.
reality, yeah, have that reality check. That's exactly what I was looking for, a reality check. And so it's like nothing's guaranteed, and I think I did well at Houston and in Cincinnati because I went in there very not expecting anything,
Hmm.
whereas a lot of auditions where I didn't get anywhere, I thought I was a contender already before I even
Hmm.
walked in the door, and then
Yeah.
when I auditioned for Houston and Cincinnati, I had been through reality check situations, all right, where I didn't expect to be anything. It's like
Hmm.
I was like, all right, just expect to be cut in the first round,
Yeah.
and so I was just kind of pleasantly surprised every time they advanced me. It's like, all right, I can go home and feel successful. This is already better
Mhm.
than I expected to do. This is already better than I've done in my last, whatever, half dozen auditions.
Yeah. And that mental kind of headspace affects your conditioning, or you're practicing as if you think you already have it, you're probably going into your practicing different.
Yeah, yeah, it's the best to. I mean, I tell my students to prepare. You should really want the job when you're preparing for it.
Hmm.
But on the day of the audition, you shouldn't want the job at all,
Yeah.
and you should have no expectations of anything.
Hmm.
Your only goal at the audition should be, okay, you should walk off that stage and be happy with how you played, and
Hmm.
that you played in a way that you yourself would have voted for it and would hire it. Because
Hmm.
that's the only thing you can control. Everything else is, you can't control that.
Yeah.
And auditions and Cincinnati and Houston, I was very relaxed. I didn't have any expectations. I just went out there and I made the music that I wanted to make,
Hmm.
and they happened to like it. And there happened auditions where I did that, but didn't get anywhere. But that's okay. It's just
Yeah.
wasn't
So
meant to
little
be.
is in your control.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some of your current goals, maybe for the Cincinnati Symphony, maybe for your studio at CCM? This could apply to a lot of different areas.
Let's see. As far as my goals with the Cincinnati Symphony, I mean, overall with the Cincinnati Symphony, I mean, I would, if somebody asked me to give them advice, I would just say, well,
Mhm.
just keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
and as someone who's a member of the Cincinnati, I'm just kind of just happy to continue riding that wave.
Mm.
I feel it's a very well-run organization. It does I feel like it plays at a high level, and it does a lot of cool projects and things like
Mhm.
that. So, um, and then as far as for my students, I mean, nothing really. I mean, my answer is not going to be really anything spectacular or out of the ordinary. I hope they end up happy. I hope they end up doing something that makes them happy. Whether that's playing in an orchestra or teaching or playing chamber music or freelancing or anything music related. I hope they're happy doing it, or even if they don't end up uh, you know uh, being professional musicians, I just hope they have happy lives. I don't want to view teaching at CCM strictly as job training.
Mhm.
I very much believe in just the concept of education, of like learning critical thinking skills, learning
Yeah.
problem solving skills, and
Mhm.
so I hope I'm breaking that wall, if you will, in terms of what of my students experience at CCM,
Mhm.
is that even if they don't end up in the music field, hopefully they will have learned something um, about discipline, about hard work, about teamwork, about treating people well, and just having good problem solving skills. Hopefully
Yeah.
the problem solving skills of playing the bass they can apply to other things in their lives. What I'm about to say is not unique. A lot of people I grew up with and went to school with did not end up. If I think back to, okay, USC School of Music, and who ended up, professional musicians. A lot did, but a lot didn't.
Mhm.
but they ended up, they ended up in other awesome professions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like it's not a sad story.
Yeah, it never is.
Yes.
Even if they thought they were going to be a professional musician at some point, even if that didn't pan out, they ended up doing something else awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, um, I think it just kind of just goes back to the value of education. I think, and hopefully also and hopefully I'm sending students in the world, whether they end up as professional musicians or not, as people who that they love music, and not only do they love music, but they really love and understand music in a profound and sophisticated way.
Yeah.
Because the world doesn't only need musicians; it also needs music lovers.
Yes. Yes.
I try to view it beyond, job training. Yeah, I also hope that the ones who want to get orchestra jobs.
Yeah. I think you mentioning the transferable skills of problem solving, I immediately thought of just even having a bass and getting that where you need to go. Like you mentioned, moving with the bass is more difficult than another instrument. So I'm sure even just playing the bass literally is an outside of the box thinker.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a very astute observation. Here's an interesting question you asked. What's some advice you have for a younger player for whom things aren't going as expected?
Mm-hmm.
My friends and colleagues when we were out taking auditions trying to get jobs. When things don't go the way you want them to.
Mm-hmm.
You have two choices.
Yeah.
You can keep persevering, or you can quit and do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and neither is a bad option.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty simple solution, I think.
Yeah. You have to pick one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to quit and do something else, like we just talked about a minute ago, is not a sad story.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just haven't been able to unlock that door yet, and eventually you will. Or maybe you never will unlock that door. Nobody has a crystal ball. Everyone, as an individual, has to decide for themselves, well, how long are they going to keep persevering? That's an individual choice.
Yeah. Or who are you persevering for? Like, is it for your teachers or is it for yourself? I think.
Yeah. And hopefully the answer is always for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love the John Cage one. Can't understand why people are frightened of new ideas. I'm frightened by the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be open-minded, to, change, all that good stuff. I love to listen as an effort to just hear as no merit a duck hears also by Stravinsky. Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like that's a real major part of my teaching. It's like, guys, use your ears.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what sounds good to you?
Mm-hmm.
To develop that judgment
Mm-hmm.
of what you like in your own playing, what you don't like in your own playing. I mean, be able to identify what you like and what you don't like in your playing.
Mm-hmm.
And if what you don't like, that becomes the battle plan for your next day of practice.
Yeah.
And get it all that you would like, that you like what you hear.
Yes. And that can definitely help with becoming your own best teacher of, if you heard someone play that, what would you think?
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, it's like, I mean, the goal of, I think, any competent teacher is to teach their students how to teach themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that art of listening is great. Not even what I would like.
Yeah.
I always tell my students, like, look, I've already got a good job. I'm not going to be on stage taking the audition with you.
Yeah.
The ultimate, the buck stops with you as far as the artistic decisions. I may like to hear something a certain way, but if you don't like it,
mm-hmm.
you got to find a way that you like,
Yeah.
Because if you don't like how you sound, I mean, how do you expect anybody to like how you sound? It's your artistic statement,
Yeah. And you should be able to, like, the music should be able to speak for itself. And if you're always like kind of justifying all your choices, that could also be a sign that you don't really know what you want to sound like either.
Yeah. And trying to, I think a committee is going to want to hear this. I think this orchestra is going to hear this. And, I never went down that path when I was taking auditions.
It was, what do you want to hear?
Yeah. It's like, what do I want to hear? I felt really vindicated after I got a job, and then I've been in the Cincinnati for 25 years, serving on 25 years of audition committees, and I feel absolutely vindicated in my earlier attitude. It's like, all right, I'm going to make me happy, because I can't. I'm just going to go crazy if I try to make people I've never met happy.
Yes.
And I feel vindicated having served on so many audition committees. I mean, not only for bass, but violin, viola, cello. I've served on timpani. I've served on oboe. I've listened to almost everything under the sun, and it's like it's impossible to try to please a committee because even in a committee, I mean, if you have a committee of 10 people, you're going to have 15 different opinions. Yeah, everybody's got their own opinion. There's always more opinions than people in the room. Mm-hmm. So just make yourself happy.
Yeah. And I think that also kind of proves the point of thinking, oh, like I play the oboe, so this is the way that oboists play it. But you're mentioning, oh, most of the committee does not play the oboe. It's so just make the music stand for itself and not, oh, this one oboist did this, and so I'm going to do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is probably my favorite quote ever about music, period. And it's by Sibelius: music begins where the possibility of language ends. Music is a miracle. I mean, you hear music, and it's like can make you feel happy or sad or excited or melancholy or whatever. Purely without any words or whatsoever. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, it tells a story without words. It makes you feel things without words. It's just an incredible form of communication. I have very broad definitions of art. I consider, a lot of rock music art. I mean, why not? But all these things have a humanizing elements. They make people a little bit, I don't know, more sensitive.
Yeah.
And maybe a little less likely to hopefully start a war or injure their fellow human.
With your perspective playing in the rock band, how do you think that musical experience informs your playing on stage at CSO? Or how do they inform each other?
Yeah, let's see. Well, playing in rock bands is something that I've done all my life. So I mean, playing a rock band now, it's not like I learned something new that I take back to the orchestra. I've played in other rock bands. Just the rock bands I played in before were not as serious as this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just that music is it's a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're on stage and it's the music's fantastic, and you're like, you're pouring your heart and soul into into somehow touching the people in the audience, touching their souls. It's like I went to a cool bass master class the other day by John Clayton, one of the great jazz bass players of all times, and he said, "I'm the devil. I want your soul." I love that. And it's like, so in both cases, you're putting your heart and soul into trying to touch the souls of the people who have, shown up. And that's fun.
Yeah. I really enjoyed speaking with Professor Lee and hearing all of the great things he had to say. Something he sort of said off the cuff that really stuck with me was that music is a miracle. As someone who grew up in a household with a professional musician, I've always thought of music as hard work and very literal on the page thinking. And I don't know if I've ever considered it a miracle before. So him saying that really stuck with me, and remembering that this is art and this is beauty and this is passion, this is love, this is a miracle. What we do is a miracle, and I hope that when I'm playing and when others play, that we are able to touch our audience in a way that makes them feel as though they've witnessed something of high art. If you'd like to keep up with the podcast, there are multiple ways you can do so. First of all, you can go to our website, which is detoursinmusicpodcast.weebly.com. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel, also called Detours in Music Podcast. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram account where you can like and follow us. The Detours in Music podcast is available everywhere that you listen to podcasts, but on Apple Music podcast apps, you can subscribe and rate us. If you ever want to get in touch with me and give more direct feedback, you can email me at detoursinmusicpodcast@gmail.com. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you catch the next one.